He was just a rookie trooper and he surely shook with pride. He checked on his equipment and made sure his pack was tight. He had to sit and listen to those awful engines roar. You ain't gonna jump no more. Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die.
Hey there, it's good to have you with us today because we have a really interesting show. We're going to talk about United States military parachute badges, or as the naval forces call it, parachute insignia. But we'll go back and start at the beginning. Before there was a parachute badge, there was a parachute patch. And it went on the hat of those going through the airborne training. But when the 501st Airborne Infantry Regiment qualified, the first 300 parachute badges were made and we were off and running. So I'll talk to you about the fact, that the first parachute badges that came out were, they're kind of small. So they came up with the backing so you could see them a little clearer. And that was used to identify the unit, and each one had their own background. So I'll show you that, and we'll go back and start at the beginning with the 501st. Then we'll take a look at the parachute insignia of the naval forces, and you'll be surprised that the parachute insignia of the Navy and the Marine Corps today was originally the Navy Parachute Rigger Badge. Okay, we'll cover that. Then we'll also take a look at the parachute badges of the United States Air Force. They had some really strange ones back in the 50s, which nobody liked, and they converted back to the Army or the Standard Department of Defense parachute badge. We'll take a look at the Space Force. We'll take a look at the Coast Guard, which does not normally use parachute badges, but if anyone in the Coast Guard qualifies, they can wear them. But we'll also take a look at one or two of what I would call integral badges of the Coast Guard. And we'll touch just on the side of the original glider forces and the air mobile, just so you know where they are in relationship to the parachute badge. And then we'll also take a little look at the parachute riggers for both the Army, the naval forces, and the Coast Guard. So I think you're going to find this really interesting. Come on, let's go. The parachutist badge, also commonly referred to as jump wings, was originally designed by Captain, later Lieutenant General William Yarborough in 1941, and the first 350 parachutist badges were manufactured by the Philadelphia firm Bailey, Banks and Biddle and shipped for award to the 501st Parachute Battalion in March of 1941. The parachutist badge replaced the parachutist patch, which had previously been worn as a large patch on the side of the paratrooper's garrison cap. I'll show you some examples in just a moment. Captain Yarborough also recommended the airborne background trimming that is worn behind the badge of those assigned to airborne units. And shown here is the background of a 501st Airborne Battalion, the very first one, along with their distinctive unit insignia on the left. The parachutist patch went on the right side of an officer's garrison hat because his rank badge went on the other side, and for enlisted personnel, the parachutist patch went on the left side of the garrison cap, as shown here. The original battalion became part of a 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment activated in November 1942, and the 501st was in the 101st Airborne Division in, World War II, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and now the 501st, one battalion of it is assigned to the 11th Airborne Division at Fort Richardson, Alaska, and the 2nd Battalion is assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, sometimes now called Fort Liberty. The parachute badge is not particularly large. It's 1.5 inches wide and comes up silver-plated or nickel chrome, and it also comes in a miniature version as shown below, as well as a subdued version for wear on a battle dress uniform. The pin originally had a long horizontal pin for fastening to the uniform, but today it comes with 2 prongs as shown by the clutch backs on the back of the example to your far right, and I'll show you why that's somewhat meaningful. Blood Wings is a traditional initiation rite that is endured by many graduates of the United States Army Airborne School. Upon receiving the parachutist badge, an instructor or a comrade of the graduate places the pins of the badge pointing into the chest of the graduate. The badge is then slammed against the graduate's chest, resulting in the pins being driven into the flesh. Of course, blood wings are against the Armed Forces policy and they are prohibited. Recipients of blood wings consider it a highly honorable rite of passage. The Army's parachute badge is awarded to all military personnel of any service who complete the U.S. Army Basic Airborne Course at Fort Benning, Georgia, now called Fort Moore for General Hal Moore. It signifies that the soldier is a trained military parachutist and qualified to participate in airborne operations. To be eligible for the award of the Basic Parachutist Badge, an individual must complete the Basic Airborne Course at the Airborne School at Fort Benning, or now called Fort Moore, Georgia. A student must complete the three-phase course consisting of a ground phase for a week, a tower phase, and a jump phase. By the end of the course, the student will have completed 5 jumps in varying jump configurations from a Hollywood jump all the way to a full combat load jump at night. Senior and Master Parachutist badges were approved in 1949, and to earn the Senior Parachute badge, you must participate in a minimum 30 jumps, including 15 jumps with combat equipment. You also have to do at least 2 night jumps made during the hour of total darkness and at least 2 mass tactical jumps. In addition, you could graduate from the Jump Master course of the Airborne Department of the Infantry School, and that would qualify you for the Senior Parachutist. And you will have to have at least 24 months of active jump status with an airborne unit to qualify as a senior parachutist. To earn the Master Parachutist badge, also known as a Master Blaster, you have to participate in a minimum of 65 jumps, including 25 jumps with combat equipment, 4 night jumps, and 5 mass tactical jumps, as well as being a jump master on at least 1 stick during a night jump, and serve at least 36 or have served at least 36 months on active jump status with an airborne unit. Now let's look at the combat jump devices. A paratrooper who completes an airborne jump into a combat zone is authorized to wear a combat jump device on their parachutist badge, turning it into a combat parachutist badge. The device consists of a star or arrangements of stars indicating the number of combat jumps. The use of stars as combat jump devices gained official approval after the 1983 invasion of Grenada. Starting on your left is the device for 1 combat jump, which is a bronze star on the shroud lines. For 2 combat jumps, a bronze star on each wing. 3 combat jumps, a bronze star on each wing, and 1 on the shroud line. 4 combat jumps, 2 bronze stars on each wing, and 5 or more combat jumps, a large gold star on the shroud lines. I also need to show the glider badge, which was a special skill badge awarded to soldiers who had been assigned or attached to a glider or airborne unit or had participated in at least 1 combat glider mission in the enemy territory. The glider badge is shown has a forward-facing glider surrounded by silver wings, and on the far right shows an original World War II cloth backing that was worn behind the glider badge when the soldiers wore it on their uniform. The U.S. Army Parachute Rigger badge is shown here in both silver plate and in a subdued format. And a parachute rigger is a person who's trained or licensed to pack, maintain, or repair parachutes. All United States Army parachute riggers are required to be airborne qualified and by tradition are required to be prepared to jump any parachute packed by any Army parachute rigger without checking the logbook. The basic military freefall parachute badge is shown on your left, and the Master Freefall Parachute badge is shown on your right. They're an oxidized silver badge consisting of a freefall parachute frontal view superimposed upon a pair of stylized wings displaying the fighting knife of a 1st Special Service Force, a World War II Special Operations Unit. Parachute-qualified members of the Army, the Naval Forces, and the Air Force may earn the Military Freefall Parachute Badge in Special Operations Training for High-Altitude Low Opening and High-Altitude High Opening at the John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center and School. In the U.S. Army, the Master Freefall Parachute Badge may be worn with the appropriate airborne badge or parachute badge as shown here. While not a parachute badge, I do need to mention the Air Assault Badge, which is awarded by the U.S. Army for successful completion of Air Assault School, and that course requires 3 phases of instruction: combat air assault operations, rigging and sling loading operations, and rappelling from a helicopter. And you do that from 60 to 90 feet. That's pretty hairy. The top badge is a rather rare Air Assault and Air Mobile badge awarded in the 1960s by the 11th Airborne Division. It was not an Army authorized badge, it was a division-only badge. The current Air Assault badge is shown below it, and it's an oxidized silver badge consisting of a helicopter, the frontal view, superimposed upon a pair of stylized wings displayed and curving inward. The wings suggest flight, together with the helicopter symbolizing the individual skills and qualifications in an assault landing using the helicopter. You can't really talk about parachute badges without mentioning the Pathfinder badge, which was originally designed in 1944, and it was worn 4 inches above the left sleeve cuff on a service coat. The Pathfinder badge is awarded to soldiers who complete the U.S. Army Pathfinder course and have the appropriate parachute badge qualifications. In the United States Army, the Pathfinder badge would always be worn with the appropriate parachute qualification badge. Here's an interesting example of a Special Forces Vietnam veteran displaying both his senior jump wings and his Pathfinder badge, along with other badges. Before we get to the Naval Services and the U.S. Air Force parachute badges, let me review the Army parachute badge. Starting in the upper left-hand corner, the Basic Parachute Badge, the Senior Parachute Badge, and the Master Parachute Badge. Then below that shows examples of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 plus combat jumps. Then the Freefall Military Parachute Badge, the Rigger Badge, the bottom row, the Air Assault Badge, then the World War II Glider Badge, and the Pathfinder Badge. Quick commercial. If you enjoy these shows, please give us a thumbs up, a like, and even better, subscribe. It'll help us stay on the air. Thank you. On your left is the Navy and Marine Corps Basic Parachute Insignia. And members of the Navy and the Marine Corps earn the parachute insignia by going through the U.S. Army Airborne School at Fort Benning, or Fort Moore as it's now called, and they do the same 3-week, 5-jump course to qualify for the Basic Parachute Insignia. The Naval or Navy and Marine Corps Parachutist Insignia was originally issued as the U.S. Navy Certified Parachute Rigger Wings, and it's a set of gold-colored embroidered or metal insignia depicting an open parachute with outstretched wings. During World War II, U.S. Marine Corps paratroopers were issued the Army Silver Parachute Badge, but they commonly wore, against regulations, the gold rigger wings because they believed it looked better on their uniform. And in 1963, the Commandant of the Marine Corps asked the Chief of Naval Operations to officially make the Navy Parachute Rigger Badge the Navy Parachutist Badge for the Navy and Marine Corps, and that was approved in 1963. Naval Parachutist Insignia is authorized for officers and enlisted personnel who were awarded the Military Parachute Badge and under competent orders have completed at least 5 more static line jumps, including a combat equipment day jump, 2 combat equipment night jumps, and employed in at least 2 different types of military aircraft. Shown here are 4 insignias which are inherent to Navy airborne operations: the Basic Parachute Badge, the Navy and Marine Corps Parachutist Insignia. Down in the lower left, the Navy SEAL Insignia, which inherently means airborne qualifications. And then the insignia of the Aircrew Survival Equipment Men, who are the survival equipment specialists and parachute riggers who do all of the parachute packing for the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps Special Operation Forces. And you can see in these 2 photographs that all Navy SEALs inherently have the airborne badge of one type or the other, in some cases even the military freefall badge. Marine Corps personnel earn the basic parachutist insignia by attending the United States Army Airborne School at Fort Benning, or now Fort Moore, and they go through the same 3-week course as U.S. Army Airborne trainees do. Once qualified, they can earn the Navy and Marine Corps parachutist insignia by completing 5 additional parachute jumps, and these jumps must include at least 1 combat equipment day jump, 2 combat equipment night jumps, and additional jumps from at least 2 different aircraft. Here are good examples of how the Marine Corps parachutist insignia would be worn with full-size medals and with ribbons. In 1956, the Air Force began issuing a unique Basic, Senior, and Master Parachutist badge. These parachutist badges were modeled after the Air Force medical badges. However, they were very unpopular, and the Air Force decided to revert to issuing the Army-style parachutist badges in 1963. In 2009, the Air Force also approved that airmen could wear the Army Parachute Rigger badge if they have earned it. 2 other badges are associated with United States Air Force airborne operations. They're shown on the bottom row here, the U.S. Air Force Combat Controllers Badge and the U.S. Air Force Pararescue Badge. The United States Space Force follows basic United States Air Force regulations on award of airborne badges, but it also allows members to wear airborne badges that they have earned while serving in other branches of the United States Armed Forces. The United States Coast Guard does not award parachute badges, but it does allow its personnel to wear parachute badges that they have earned. There is also a unique badge called the Aviation Rescue Swimmers Badge, which is shown on the upper right-hand corner, and the U.S. Coast Guard Aviation Survival Technicians, which do all of the parachute packing for the delivery systems of the Coast Guard. To wrap up, I need to mention that the United States Army has a pretty liberal policy on allowing airborne personnel to wear a badge that they have earned from another country, and it's worn on the right breast as shown here. Some examples of foreign wings start in the upper left are Canadian parachute wings, British parachute wings, Italian and Korean parachute wings, as well as examples of the Bundeswehr's Fallschirmjäger badges. Oh, thanks for watching today. And if you know something that I missed, please add it in the comments below. There's a lot of information out there, and this is a great place to share it in the comments. So please give us a shot. All right, see you next time on Veterans Medals Workshop.